All right, you waited long enough. Today we take on Leviticus.
By and large, the greatest headache that homosexuals encounter in regards to Christianity deals with two passages found in Leviticus. The book itself is named after the tribe of Levi, the priestly descendants of Israel, and is about proper codes of holiness that Jews must observe. These codes deal with ways to worship, charity, what to eat, business practices, property rights, how to garden, how to dress, how to perform rituals, paying taxes, and sexual morality, just to name a few. For more information on the role of laws in ancient Judaism, check out my video from a few years ago, link below in the description. The verses that have been traditionally interpreted by Christian fundamentalists and having to do with homosexuality are chapter 18 verse 22, which says, "You shall not lie with a male as with a woman, it is an abomination," and chapter 20 verse 13, "If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall be put to death. Their blood is upon them." Now, before I disabled YouTube comments, the most frequent response I got from people regarding my ministry began with the words Leviticus clearly states. Well, with that in mind, I feel that it's most appropriate that we examine these two verses as clearly as possible. We begin with abomination, which automatically calls to mind images of the abominable snowman from that annual stop-motion Rudolph Christmas special, right?
No, just me.
Well, you hear abomination today and you probably think detestable or evil. This is not true, according to Jewish studies scholar Dr. J. Michelson, who explains that the term to'avah and its plural to'avo occurs 103 times in the Hebrew Bible and almost always has the connotation of a non-Israelite cultic practice. Further, he would define to'avah as something permitted to one group and forbidden to another. In short, to'avah means taboo. I'll include a link to his article on the use of to'avah in the Bible in the description box below as well. Surrounding these two verses in Leviticus are lists of rules to display Jewish distinction against the idolatrous practices of Canaanites. Preserving the identity of Jewishness was of utmost importance. There was a constant fear of ethnic contamination. So why would laying with another man be considered taboo? Here are three theories. First, rape. As I mentioned in my episode on Sodom, male same-sex gang rape was often used to prove dominance, often against a foreigner. According to Old Testament scholar Dr. J. Edgar Brune, Egyptians inflicted anal rape as a punishment upon a defeated male enemy as a statement of domination. In the supposed narrative setting of Leviticus, the Israelites are wandering in the desert after escaping 2 generations of slavery in Egypt. You can rest assured male Egyptians would have demeaned their male Hebrew slaves by forcing rape upon them, making a man lie in the position of a woman. This is no different than the culture we see today in male prisons all over the world. So Leviticus may be suggesting that Israelites are better than that.
You're better than that!
Israelites must never inflict the demeaning acts that the Egyptians and other oppressors placed upon their fellow human being. But this theory does not explain why in chapter 20 verse 13 the victim is also punished. So let's take a look at the second theory that has to do with patriarchy. Brune suggests that the main reason the Israelites regarded homosexual practices as a taboo was that in a society where the dignity of the male was a primary consideration, voluntary acts of a homosexual nature could not be tolerated. Both parties would then be undermining the very foundations of a patriarchal society. The one because he uses another as a woman, the other because he allows himself to be used as a woman. The dignity of the male is dishonored by both. In addition, throughout biblical times, one of the worst curses that would befall on a family was infertility because of the heavy Jewish emphasis to preserve the family. So culturally, this could be a law about preserving the dignity of how the Israelites defined masculinity, fertility, and the preservation of the family. Now today, we know that masculinity and femininity are subjective and are often culturally defined. Fertility was emphasized so that families can continue. A concern during biblical times would have been the scenario that if people would only sleep with members of the same sex, then there wouldn't be reproduction. So how can a community grow without babies? Now, obviously today we have scientific advances that allow homosexuals to conceive and build families. So this point is no longer a concern either. Our third theory on why Leviticus forbids same-sex acts deals with idolatry and what we already explored in my Brookback Mountain episode with Romans chapter 1 verses 26 to 27. Remember, the worship of pagan gods was usually connected with drunken, drug-induced orgiastic behavior. Paul describes idol worshippers abandoning their heterosexual nature to engage in homosexual acts. Idol worship in the Hebrew scriptures was really not much different, particularly with the worship of Baal. Ezekiel uses the word toava a record-setting 39 times in connection to idolatrous worship rituals. It was a fact that male prostitutes would linger around shrines and temples in order for pagans to engage in the type of ritual sexcapades that Ezekiel and Paul allude to. For pagans, sex was a form of worship, particularly same-sex. This third theory is probably the reason for the Levitical law and the opposition against same-sex activity. In any case, none of these theories talk about homosexuality as an orientation, but rather actions among men. There is no reference to lesbian couples in Leviticus, so they're off the hook today.
Okay, well, in conclusion, if there was one word I wish people would stop using when it comes to scriptural interpretation, it'd be that word clearly, because let's face it, unless you know ancient Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic, the Bible doesn't say anything clearly. If it did, we wouldn't have so many translations of scripture.